Contrary to popular belief, rainbow flags, parades, and dance parties, those are not the only things that we do to celebrate Pride. Pride is so much deeper than that. And today I'm sitting down with someone who has made it his mission to bring important stories about Pride and about the queer community to life. Chris Fitzgerald is the creator and host of This Week in Queer History, which is a vibrant and uplifting YouTube channel that spotlights the icons and moments from LGBTQ history he wishes he'd known about growing up queer in conservative Mormon, Utah. Chris, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Eric, for having me. Very exciting to talk about some queer history and really where we come from.
I think that we all know that history repeats itself, especially if we aren't familiar with our history. And while there's nothing wrong with celebrating and getting on a float and going out and partying, I think it's also important for us to recognize the deep, rich history that makes us proud to be who we are. So, Chris, I'm just going to give it over to you. Let's talk about 5 icons or events, or specific, or more broadly, reasons why we celebrate Pride. Are you ready?
Yes, let's get into it. So I mean, one of the things that comes to mind too, first of all, is that I think with queer history, a lot of the time it's negative. Something bad happened. Someone was hurt, murdered. Really, what I grew up with was that kind of a negative connotation to queer history, to LGBTQ history,
and fear,
and really that we came from a very dark place. And so my whole mission was to find the positive, to find the hope, to find the inspiration, and looking back at events that could really inspire and celebrate who we are and where we come from. And finding that even in the darkest of times, there was joy, there was community. And so I think that's what I have been so excited about as I've started to learn about this. I'm a novice historian. That's not where I come from, but I knew that there is power in history. And so as I started to kind of do research, getting out there, reading articles, gathering information, I started to see some really cool events. So something that I've noticed is that we all know about Stonewall. Stonewall is incredible, right? This is that one pivotal moment where everyone just stood up. Trans women stood up. People of color stood up. Queer people just said no more. They said, you can't come into our space and determine what we want to do and how we want to live our lives. But what I have found is that there have been several other moments prior to Stonewall that were bubbling, that were the sparks that led to Stonewall. And so it's good to find those moments. Cooper's Donuts, which is a really cool one that happened 10 years prior to Stonewall in 1959. Same sort of thing. Little donut shop, the only safe place where queer people, trans people, people of color could go find community. And it was late at night one night after hanging out at the bar. They all were there cheeking with their friends, talking, laughing, and the police came in and started demanding IDs. And at that time, if you were dressed in a gender that was not your marker on your ID, you were arrested, you were beat, you were taken to jail. And so at this moment, they started to do it. Police came in, started checking IDs. Well, someone just said, no more. I'm not going to do this. And coffee started throwing, the donuts started flying. And this is a moment where people stood up and the police weren't ready for it. They didn't expect it. And so they had to leave Cooper's Donuts, got out of there. And that night there was a celebration. And so there are these little moments, the Black Cat Cafe, their uprising in Silver Lake, which happened several years before Stonewall as well. So there are these little moments that pop up that led to Stonewall, that started to give people that, empower people to say, no more. And I think that's so important for now, today, that we see these moments that have happened before. We see small uprisings and we're like, you know what? Something is not right. People are unhappy. This isn't working out. What do I do? And I think these examples show us like, oh, you just stand up and say no. You show up and say no, or you say, this is how I want to live. This is what I believe in. And I'm not going to just be quiet. I'm not going to just sit back and let you treat me unfairly. And so I think that's the exciting thing about finding these moments and starting to pull them into our lives now, use them as examples and take a step forward from here.
I guess I'm a little confused though, because it's
Mm,
2025. Isn't
mm.
everything perfect and sunshiny and rainbows? Like, don't we all just get along? Why can't we
Yeah,
all just get along?
yeah. Isn't that wild?
Isn't it
I think
wild?
yeah, it's perfect, right? And the thing is I think there is that false sense of, oh, gay marriage is legal. Oh, we're starting to, it's across the land. It's legal. That was such a pivotal moment. Oh, TV, we're starting to see gay characters, queer characters, lesbian characters. So trans characters, whole series about trans people, and we're like, wow, finally, oh, we're here. And then the pendulum starts to swing a little bit back the other direction. And so what I'm seeing also as I start to look at history is that that pendulum swings back and forth. And I think what we're doing is we're coming more and more center, but it takes these moments where there's a resistance to the progress.
Mm.
And you saw it in Weimar Republic of Nazi Germany. Same thing happened. Same thing happened. I haven't really covered this yet, but there are so many really amazing things that were happening in the 1930s in Germany. They had a whole university where they were collecting books, writing books about queer experiences, and so there was a celebration, and cabaret is a moment you could kind of watch. I did do an episode on cabaret, and they talk about how there was this celebration and people were living their lives and so happy. And then all of a sudden, this regime of the Nazi regime came in, and the oppression and the pushback against this freedom and progress. And so what I'm seeing and what I've learned and what is that history teaches us, don't worry. Yes, the pendulum may be pushing back. We might start to see a recession of freedom that we have gained, but we can always pull it back because it's been done before and it will happen again. We just have to stand up and say, I want to live this way and it's not harming anyone else. I believe that I deserve to have this respect and to live the way that I want to live. So history gives us the hope that even when that pushback happens, we can come back to where we want to be.
Well, you're showing me also just great examples of how pride is not just a celebration, but also a resistance and the importance of resistance, right? If
Yes.
if a Black trans woman can stand up to authority, then I, in my cis white privilege, can absolutely stand up for authority. What can I do today on the shoulders of so many people of less privilege than me that came before me? How can I take that baton and honor the people that came before me?
Yeah, yeah, and that's something also that I really try to walk and be delicate about and aware of. I am cis white male. I have a lot of privilege that is just handed to me because of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's something to recognize as well, that we also have more responsibility within our community to stand up and speak for those that may be experiencing more repression, more loss of freedom, and speak up because it's important for the majority of the minority to support. We are all, that's why I started to say queer too. That's something that for me personally, and I think that finding identity is so important and valuable and important that we respect everyone's identity. For me, I was always against the word queer. It's really interesting, but I was against it because I thought, nah, so that's not me. And then as I started to explore the history, I really wanted to envelop all of it. I wanted to be more of inclusive of everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
it still is very important to have identity within that, but then also understanding that we are a community with everyone. Yes, trans people have different issues that they are facing right now, but we are still the base of our desires is the same, is like freedom, the ability to love who we want to love and live the way we want to live without harming others. And so I think that is really important to think about. And as we go into Pride, yes, let us celebrate, let us dance, let us party, but also find moments where you can connect, find moments where you can stand up and prepare to act for people, for yourself, for others within our community. And I think especially now it's getting ready to show up, speak up, show up. And it could be a grocery store, you see something happening and you're just like, that's not okay. Just speaking up and saying something. It could be going to a march and standing and showing up there. So I think those are all valid, but it is doing something. And I think that is really important, and to be able to then celebrate the victories and things that have happened. Again, talking about gay marriage, it felt like something that was new, brand new, that something that had just barely been invented. And yet the first recorded gay marriage happened in 1061 in Spain. At that time, it wasn't Spain, but in Spain, 1061. And so it was recorded by a priest, two men. And so that was a really cool story to find and to look into, that it was accepted by that small community, maybe, but that at that time in that place, it was possible. And so that's 1,000 years ago. And even before that, I did a story on these manicurists in Egypt, 25th century BC, 2500, 2400 BC, that they were lovers and they had their own tomb with iconography of them as lovers. It's still kind of debated, but it looks like that they were lovers and it was celebrated by the people at the time. So this is the thing where you start to see this, you're like, wow, okay,
it's always there. It's just been erased.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Well, you could even look at David and Jonathan. You can argue in the Bible that David and Jonathan were lovers.
Yes.
Loving a man more than he's ever loved a woman. That sounds kind of gay to me, and I'm here for it. And I find it so interesting when people talk about traditional family, traditional marriage. Well, okay, not to get on my soapbox, but what type of marriage are you talking about? Because there are 8 different types of marriage in the Bible. But out of the Bible, you're talking about 2 men that got married over 1,000 years ago, and it's like, okay, well, is that can that be considered traditional marriage, or does traditional marriage only work when it supports your homophobic beliefs and ideas?
Yes, yeah, and then if you want to have that rigid belief, you better believe all the things. I mean, divorce, you can't get divorced, and so that's not allowed.
Oh, please stone your woman if she ever cheats on you. Can I tell you a really funny story, Chris? Yeah. I had someone say, well, Jesus did say something about homosexuality. One of my many arguments about how that the Bible is actually very queer, and if anyone doesn't know it, and people will say, "Oh no, well, there's Leviticus and there's all these verses." Okay, one of my many arguments is that Jesus never said anything about homosexuality, and someone said, "Well, the Bible is the Word of God, so Jesus technically said it X, Y, and Z." I go, "Okay, so that means that Jesus also said it's permissible to stone a woman if she cheats on her husband by your logic." And this man goes, "Jesus didn't say that." I was like, well, and I had to just stop commenting because I'm like, exactly. You're proving my point. Like, maybe this is a book that's meant to inspire instead of a set of rules that's meant to confine us. Call me crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's so hard. I mean, coming from a very religious place, religious background, Utah, Mormonism, and the stories that are told, and the Book of Mormon and the Bible, I think what I have found in religion is that it definitely served a purpose at a time, and it saved people. I mean, there were lessons in there that, like, the way that you should eat saved people. There were practices that that did keep communities safe, and lessons that kept people alive for a while. But as with all things, we have evolved and our world has changed. And I definitely view religion a little differently than I used to. And I can also see that books are written by humans, mostly men, for religion. And they have shifted over time. And there's not really, I think, as we go and people hold so tightly to the words that are on that page, they don't have the context of that it's evolved and shifted, and a word has changed every time that someone has rewritten, reprinted. And it's hard to do the work to look back and say, when did it change? How did it change? And so that's the hard part with religion, the Bible, the Book of Mormon. There's so many things that you look at and you think, well, that's That's interesting that
Well, and
that
it's also like, if this, then what? So, did you know, Chris, that the word homosexual was added to the Bible in 1946? So,
okay.
if that's true, then what else is true? And it makes
Yeah.
me ask questions like, why? What was the intention? Um, and so,
Yeah.
yeah, but those curious questions can be very scary for people,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is it is hard. You want to have the conversations. I am trying to find also with the content that I'm creating to open it so it's not just for queer audiences. I do want to expose people to moments in history that they had no idea about, to maybe broaden their perspective.
Sure.
And I think that's where the being open to discovery, to possibility. It is fascinating, and there are some subjects like Joan of Arc. I did a piece on an episode on Joan of Arc, and ooh, people have their opinions about Joan of Arc. But looking at her as a trans icon, whether she was trans or not, um, you can see that she was fighting against a norm, fighting against the majority, and saying she was doing all of the things that were not within her gender norm, and she followed through. She wanted to do it her way, and she was, and so, and there's a lot of research to say that she was trans. That so, but what I found is that people with some of those icons that they've held so dear in their life, with what they have been told, that there's no possibility that, what if that was the case, then can she still be the icon to you if she was trans?
Mm.
And so is there room for that? Is there room for you to see this thing that you thought, this person that you thought was this thing your entire life, and then you discover that, oh, maybe they're maybe a little more complex than I thought. Maybe they're not two-dimensional, and and so that they actually were human.
Mm-hmm.
That's where
Mm-hmm.
I hope that it maybe opens it up. I did a episode on the top LGBTQ composers that you should know, and ooh, the classical composer community came at me with some of those, because, and I supported everything with research from people who
Yeah.
had done the research, but and some of it is a little speculative, but to open up the conversation to say, could Handel have been asexual, gay, not acting on his desires because of his surroundings at that time? Was that possible?
Mm.
Maybe. And so, but what I'm finding is that sometimes people are so rigid in their beliefs that there's no space to for someone to come out. So it's I love doing it. I'm excited to keep going forward. I will get some
Mm.
things wrong, but I do think that it's important to at least start to talk about it.
I think
And
what's more interesting to me is like, I'm curious about why for those people. And this is
mm,
a broader question,
mm,
but why is it so threatening to you in your
mm,
existence? Have you ever
yeah.
done an episode on Abraham Lincoln?
No, not yet, but he is
Not
in the
yet.
list.
You
He's in
gotta
the
do
list.
it. You gotta do it.
There's a lot of documentation to say that he was gay and that he had a partner through quite a while. That, and times were different. They shared a bed, a very small bed, and so we we'll get into it. We'll see. But again, that's one of those icons that people are going to have a hard time
Mm.
hearing the possibility that, look, hey, here are the facts that we know. This is some speculation here, maybe, but this is the facts we know. Is it possible that he could have been gay? Uh, and we'll see.
And
But some people, again, hold so
oh,
tightly to because, again, it goes back to gay is bad, queer is bad, and so this split in their brain that they can't have, that this person they idolize could possibly have been gay, and that still makes them okay. Still, they were still the great person that they were, but yeah, it's
well, and I don't know about you, but I think my queerness has given me the gift of empathy. We talked about noting our privilege, Chris, you and I, and I'm so grateful I'm gay because it's given me the
mm,
opportunity to wonder, if this, then what? If this is how I feel, if this is how I am othered in my privilege and my safety, how
mm,
does it feel to be someone of less privilege? And I'd like to think that I would also have that empathy if I were straight, but regardless if I would or not, I know I have that because of my queerness. I just want to say, I want to pause real quick and say, if you're listening to
Yeah.
this and you're reminded of all this backlash as to how people's opinions of other leaders can be tainted simply because of their sexuality, and you're using that as evidence to support the idea that being gay is wrong or bad or difficult for you to come out, just a gentle reminder that their reaction says nothing about you and your authenticity and everything about them and their fragile way of living. And this is not a call to action to come out of the closet if you're not ready. Pride is for you if you are in the closet or out of the closet. But I will say that let this be a reminder that there are people like Chris and I and so many more people around the world that celebrate you as and because of who you are. In part, this brings me to my next question, Chris, because of some of the shoulders that we're standing on. When I ask you, Chris, to just think of a couple of people from history that you admire, from queer history that you admire, who comes to your mind and why?
I think Bayard Rustin is a really incredible figure. He was really he was a leading force in the civil rights movement. So really pushing for and right behind Martin Luther King Jr. Like he was there, he was planning everything. He was organizing bus boycotts. He was doing and the busing people into marches. He was a huge part of the civil rights movement, and he was gay, and yet he pushed forward with the civil rights movement. And there was one moment where they asked him to step back because he was gay. And so it was like this struggle that he had of like, how do I push forward this one movement? And yet I know that I still want to be accepted in another, because he was, he had multiple things that were not favorable at the time. And so I think that he was really incredible. And then after the civil rights movement, he pushed into sort of gay rights. And so I think that's really powerful. It's like once you obtain the rights that you have and you are happy about, there's still more work to be done. I'm a gay man. I'm pretty good. I mean, well, there's still some stuff that I'm like, oh, there's like, but our trans sisters and brothers, they need us to step up and engage and act for them. So I think he really, I think he's just a hero, that he just kept pushing forward and wanted to make the world a better place for everyone, not just for him and his one in his bubble. So I think that Billy Haynes is a really cool icon that I look at. He was an actor from 1920s, 30s, and he was out and gay. And the studio said, you have to either marry a woman and have a facade, or we cannot have you as an actor. And he chose to stay with his partner. And so he left his career, left it all behind, and said, I will not lie and pretend for you and for this career and this money, this fame, because
Wow.
I won't. Yeah. So, and this was in the 1930s, and so that is powerful. And then he went on to have an incredible career as an interior designer, and Joan Crawford used him. All of his contacts within the industry used him. But that was a really cool and bold thing where you just said, I'm not going to sacrifice who I am for someone else. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to be proud in who I am. And it may hurt, it may be hard, and it may change a little bit of where I'm at right now, but it's worth it. It's important.
One thing I think, one reason I love Pride is it's an example. It's a reminder that the actions we take have rippling effect. It's pretty miraculous. We have no idea the people that will be affected by and impacted by our work. Just like Chris, you and I have no idea the people that are moved by the videos we make, share them with other people who share them with other people. It's exponential. But you look at someone like that, and we can name so many more people, and we're still talking about them and we're still being impacted by them. What an honor to be able to know more of our own history, to kind of borrow courage from the people that came before us.
Yeah. And it makes you feel not alone, because you know that you have all these people that are sharing the same feelings that you're feeling, the same maybe isolation that you feel in a moment, but that we have experienced it too. And you're not alone in that, and that there, and the beautiful thing about now is that we have social media, we have platforms that we can connect with people from distances. And I think that is something that is so different from when we were growing up too, that in the middle of the country, in some of these deep conservative places, when I was growing up, I didn't if I had a question, if I was curious, if I wanted to see anybody that was like me, I was starving for it. I would wait until I maybe saw a rainbow flag on a street, which was very rare at the time, or so I was hungry for it. And now you can get on, you can connect, you can find it. So I think that that is the beauty of now, and that we
Mm.
can create connection. We can throw a lifeline out to people and have a back and forth conversation saying, hey, don't, I know it feels really bad right now, but you know what? I did the same thing. I got out of my small town. I found people within my small town. Growing up in Utah, I in college at that time I was still kind of closeted, but I joined the Pride, which was our gay group, LGBTQ club, and that I found people that way. But I think that with our online platforms and the internet, we are able to connect more and to see examples of who we can be and become and dream of possibilities outside of our limited space that we're in right now in this moment. Um,
I love what you said about, you were hungry for it. I think that's a
mm,
very intentional, good word to use for it. I think that we forget that a sense of belonging is a basic human need, no different than hunger. 52 million Americans struggle with loneliness on a daily basis. And there's recent studies that show that loneliness is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's actually killing us. When we lived in caves, if we were kicked out of the tribe and didn't have that community, we would die. We couldn't live alone. We are pack animals, and no different. It's no different today. It is different today. We have shelter, of course, but we have the feeling of death, and over time, that slowly kills us. And I also want to say that community is the antidote to shame, right? So shame will tell us that we're alone in this. We can't talk to anyone about this, but community is a safe space for belonging. It's a safe, sacred space for storytelling and to feel less alone and to feel more connected with those around us.
mhm.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think there's something also with that. I remember right after high school. I remember during Gay Pride Month, there was one street on Ninth and Ninth. I don't know if you know Ninth and Ninth area in Salt Lake City, but there is this corner that had a little like tchotchke kind of novelty store with cards, and it was like sort of had some gay stuff in there, some queer stuff. There was the Tower Theater, which showed art house movies, indie films, a little more risque, and but there was a street, and a lot of the queer people and gay, lesbian started to live and buy in that area. But around Gay Pride Month, they would all put a rainbow flag out, or at least not all of them, but maybe one house every 10 would have a rainbow flag. And I remember I would just drive up and down that street
Mm.
on Ninth and Night just to have the feeling of someone else, someone else. There's someone like me. I'm not alone. Even though I would never meet them, I would never see them. I just felt this sense of I'm not the only one. I'm not alone on a raft. I can see that there are others out there.
Wow.
So yeah, I think having the community is so important, and it would take some time for me to make connections outside of just seeing and knowing that that was there. But that was an important part of my early coming out and finding community.
Wow. And it's such
Mm,
a beautiful story. And I think that it's a great example of why it's important for us to speak out, why
mm,
allyship is important, why it is important, for example, for churches to have rainbow flags on the front door,
mm.
because we need to feel seen, because there have been so many spaces where I've been reminded that we don't belong.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I want to ask you 4 call and response questions before we
Okay,
close. Is that okay?
great. Yes.
First thing that comes to your mind, fill in the
Okay.
blank. Are you ready?
Yeah, yeah, ready.
To me, queer means
Joy,
pride is
a celebration,
I'm going to riff here, but I have a scenario in my head, so it's not that short, this one.
That's okay.
I am witnessing a situation in front of me of injustice.
Mm-hmm.
The very first thing I do is
speak up, say something, do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Finally, there's one person that's listening to this that feels alone, that thinks, well, it's easy for these two men to talk about it. They're adults. They have their own place. Maybe they're white. Maybe, well, not maybe, but maybe that's what they're thinking. Well, they're white, or they're more privileged than me, or they're cisgender, or they're X, Y, and Z. That's not me. There's no place for me to belong. What is that? What do you want that one person to hear, Chris?
That is not possible. That is not possible, because it is there. It is there. It's just finding it. It may take searching, and sometimes it means creating the space, being the beacon for the same person out there to find you. It just might be harder for you to find them, but they are there, and you are welcome. You are welcome even when you see that someone is different. If I look different, if you don't quite connect, I'm still here. And I think that is important. I want to be more open and accepting of everyone, so that when people need it, it's there. And then if they want more, if they want more connection, to find more likeness and likeness in experience, find your base that is good for now, and keep expanding, keep looking until you find it, because it is there. It is there.
Amen. And until then, you always have Chris's videos and resources. You always have my videos and resources. Y'all, as a reminder, please follow Chris on Instagram and YouTube, and I'll make sure to drop those links in the show notes here. And of course, like this video, share it with someone who you think needs to hear it. Subscribe for more content. As a reminder, my friends, I'm Eric Feltus. I'm a life coach that helps gay men free themselves from religious shame, build confidence, make friends. If this is something that speaks to you, all you got to do is click the very first link below to book a free 10-minute call with me. No pressure, just you and me. Spots are limited, but sign up today so we can see how we can get you that community and that confidence that you're worthy of and that you deserve. Chris, thank you so much for being here. This is such a joy.
Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you.
Until next time. Bye, y'all.